All right, welcome back to Rust Order Garage. We continue on the 55 POSpecial. I've been calling it the Purple Pig lately, but still POS. All right, last video, did the wiring on the fan. I tied up that wiring this morning. So, finally, let's see, where are we? Cross something off. That's good. It's good to see the list get smaller, if only by one thing. All right, so with that crossed off, I think we'll do some Turbo 400 stuff. So I've got a few things here. I got the modulator line, speedo cable, vehicle speed sensor. Let's see if we can knock some of those out. All right, well, I guess the first thing I'll attempt will be the vacuum modulator line. The reason this is needed is because the Turbo 400 is controlled as far as line pressure by vacuum. So the lower the vacuum, the harder the shifts. So I need to run a line from full-time engine vacuum down to the modulator, which is on the side of the transmission on a Turbo 400. I'm going to take this port right here, break that tab off and use that. And I've got some 1/4-inch line here that I just started doing some bending with by hand because it's nickel copper, easy to work with. But I am going to have to feed it down under the car and then see what it looks like on the bottom end as far as final bends and connection at the modulator. So let me get this fed down here. It'll be something like that, which looks decent. And then see what the underside of the car looks like. All right, before I get under the car, I'll just put a little piece of 1/4-inch vacuum line on this. I did put a double flare on my line, and there is a little bit of a barb there. I don't know if I'm going to have to like clamp these for boost. Just don't know. That usually breaks off easier than that. It did not break off. Get the wire cutters out. There we go. Now I got a vacuum port. Little piece of 1/4 hose. Actually, it's going to be harder to put on this. So let's see. All right, time to get under the car. All right, there's the vacuum line coming down. I think I'll trim it something like that, right around there. And that way I can just run a vacuum line from here to there if this was a normal build. But this is a turbo, so I got to add something else. All right, so here's the bottom end of the modulator line. Cut it, double flared it. Now, if this was a regular, say, normally aspirated build, all you would do is connect a vacuum line from here to the modulator and you're done. But I'm going to do something a little different here. I've got this guy, which is a one-way check valve, and I'm going to put this in this line so that basically under boost, instead of putting all that pressure on the modulator, which I don't know if that's a good idea or not, it'll open this check valve and blow out this way. So it's just kind of a pressure relief. Under vacuum, it'll be closed. Under pressure, it'll blow out. And if you want to do that yourself, we get the part number. I found these online. I'm sure you can get them anywhere, but this one is this guy. And there's the final setup. So the vacuum comes out of the engine into the T, over to the modulator, and then off of the T to the pressure relief, or a check valve really, but I'm using as a pressure relief valve. And yeah, that's that. So on to the next Turbo 400 stuff, which will be speedometer cable and a VSS. So as far as getting a VSS signal for the Turbo 400, there's a couple ways you can do it. If you're lucky enough to have a later version of the transmission, they actually had a VSS signal generator on the transmission because they used an electric speedometer. Those are not as common and not as easy to find those parts either. I actually do have one that I found by accident. And that was the transmission I was going to use in this car, but I know nothing about it. I wanted to go through it first, and I am a YouTube trained transmission builder, meaning that I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So I kind of bailed on that for the moment to try to get this car running, because the transmission that's in there now should be good. No guarantees, but I have more confidence in it than the one I found with the VSS signal on there. So on this transmission, that was an older style and used a cable drive speedometer, I'm going to use what they call this. I guess it's a pass-through signal generator. It's from Dakota Digital, but I'll show you both versions. So here's the later model Turbo 400 that I was going to use in this build, and may still in the future, but you can see it's got a regular electronic VSS output on it, which is pretty cool. So that would have worked as a no-brainer. But because I'm not using it, this is how I'm going to do it. All right, so for the Turbo 400, to get a vehicle speed sensor, you can either use that GM one, which is almost impossible to find, or there are a couple Dakota Digital options, which are reasonable. I think they're about $75 or so on these things, 65, 75 bucks. Two options. One is the SEN-01-4160, which gives a VSS signal out of the side of a mechanical speedometer transmission. It just screws into the side of the transmission and has wiring for the VSS. This is only good if you're going to run an electric speedometer. If you want to keep the mechanical speedometer, you need this one, which is a SEN-01-4160. This one's what they call a pass-through. It attaches to the side of the transmission, same as this, but it also has an output that you can screw the speedometer cable on and drive a mechanical speedo. So I'm going to put this on, and hopefully it works. All right, so just open up this package. I'm not going to open the other one because I'm not going to use it. The reason I have both is because I changed my mind, which, like I said, will cost you money. So let's see what we got here. I've got this, an O-ring and a seal. This looks like just an adapter. And then this is the actual unit itself. All right, let's put it on. All right, let's install this thing. I have never installed one of these, so I will be reading the directions. First thing they say is to put this new key in here, which fits into the speedometer output. Then they have this big, where's the camera? Flat washer, and that's going to fit into this guy, this end of the adapter. I don't know if it goes on here first. That's how it's going to seal. Stick that in there. All right, so that's inside there. And I'm going to put this on here. All right, just gonna snug this down. I'm not gonna kill it because it has that just a rubber seal on it. Try that like that. All right, next I want you to take the speed sensor, and they come with a little O-ring, and put the O-ring over the brass side like that, and then this supposed to go like this, and then you tighten this down. All right, let me get that snug down. Try not to get my wires wrapped up here. All right, that's just snugged up. Again, not tight because it's just an O-ring in there, nothing special. And the wires they give you for this thing are long enough to go all the way up into the car. So I'm gonna have to connect those to my factory VSS connection here that goes up to the PCM. I'm gonna see if I can find a connector that actually fits that. And I'll leave the wires long in case I ever do want to just run something else off of it, electric speedometer only or something. Probably not needed, but I'll leave the wires long. And then the only thing left to do is connect the speedometer cable to there. So I don't have a connector to plug into this because GM only does it one way and all the other pins are on like sensors. So what I'm going to do is I don't want to cut this off just in case I do put a 4L80 in this in the future. I want to keep this. Hello. And so what I will do is I'm just going to cut these wires here and splice them right into these wires above the connector and then tape it off, and then I can save this. All right, just started the car up with the VSS connected. I want to see if I get a speed reading. I don't care what it is, as long as it reads something. I don't have a gas pedal, so I can't get the engine any faster than it is, but I think I can drive. Here we go. Car's shaking because it's up on the lift, but at least I got some reading. Maybe I'll put it outside and rev it up a little bit. That might not be safe. Excellent. So that's a couple more things off the list, at least as long as they work. I have a feeling I'm going to have to do programming changes because I have to double check how many pulses per mile this puts out versus the computer's, the normal VSS on an automatic. So I'm sure I'm going to have to make changes there. And I don't know if my original speedometer works or not. If it does, it does. It doesn't, it doesn't. I'll get a GPS. Anyway, more stuff off the list. VSS is in. Speedo cable is in as long as it's good. The modulator line is done. And if the speedo cable is broken or no good, I don't care. I'm getting this car on the road. I'll deal with it later. So only a few more things left. Overflow tank. I got that in yesterday, so I have to get that installed. Front seat, mount the PCM, wheels, tires, rear axles, gas pedal. Wow. All right. It is almost time to drive this thing. All right, so as you saw there, we had 1 mile an hour reading on the scanner. Well, it's a couple days later after work. Figured I'd come out here for a minute because obviously 1 mile an hour is not good enough. It's got to read something. I mean, I don't even know if this is really necessary. Most of the time I've read it's necessary for manual transmission cars. They have a problem where if the computer doesn't know that you're moving, you put the clutch in when you're slowing down, the engine stalls. I don't know if that's a problem with the automatics or not, but I wanted to put it in anyway just to try to, I don't know, make sure it would work okay. So 1 mile an hour reading is, I don't think, good enough. I did some research online. People have messed with this, and I changed some numbers in the program. I changed the tooth count on the VSS from 40 to 3.9 based on guessing what gears, speedometer gears are in this transmission. You actually have to take them out and count the teeth and figure out what they are, but I'm not going to bother with that because I just want to get it working. And then if we're on the road, I can make adjustments with tire diameter or whatever to make it right. But anyway, neither here nor there. So I changed some numbers in there. We're going to try it again. One other thing, what you didn't see, that I caught out of the corner of my eye, when I put the car in drive and started rolling, the speedometer jumped up and went back to 0. And the speedometer cable broke. So I don't know if that broke because something's wrong with that speedometer and the head's locked up or something, but it could be that this is just ancient. I have a new speedometer cable on order, so we're going to put it in and see if that at least fixes that part of it. One other thing I noticed, and this is a first, when I was running the car there to check the speedometer, hit the brakes, pedal is like a stone, rock hard, won't move. Couldn't even get the rear wheels to stop turning unless I really got on it. It looks like the power brake booster is junk. So that's the first time that's happened to me. I bought a couple of these B-body boosters off somebody that was in their shed some years back. It could have been one of them that sat around for a long time, but it looks like the diaphragm's junk. So one forward step, one backward step. I'm going to have to replace that power brake booster, but let's test the speedometer anyway and see if the values that I changed made a difference. So here's a new one. I just plugged the scanner in, turned the key on, checked to see if I have any DTC codes. P1638, generator F terminal circuit. You see that? I wonder if that is because I don't have that second wire on the alternator. We may be adding that in anyway, even if it isn't needed, which I'm still not convinced yet because I don't know if this alternator is good or not. But I guess we'll find out. One big test I wanted to do was to run the car, monitor the voltage, and let that big fan kick on and see if the alternator compensates and we still have 14 volts with the fan running. But that's later. Let's see if this speedometer works now. All right, so here we go. Going to the data stream. Fire this pig up. We're in park. Down to speed. Car's shaking because it's up on the lift. Now, the pain in the butt about this is, that's it, this brake booster is hard as a rock. That should be drive. Oh yeah. Now we have probably something a lot more accurate. We're only idling barely right now. I'm probably running out of gas. Let's see if I can clear that up a little bit. All right, I got the idle cleaned up a little bit. I have no gas pedal, so I can't do it from in here. Put it back into drive. Yeah. 10, 11 miles an hour. The engine idling in gear in the air. That's better. That's better. And the brakes stalled the car. That brake booster is done. I think right now it's turned into a huge vacuum leak. So, got to replace that booster before we continue on, I think, with anything else. And just as further confirmation, if you have a good power brake booster and you've run the engine, when you pull this check valve, you should get a vacuum release. Nothing. That diaphragm is done. So, have to replace that power brake booster.
It's a first, but stuff happens.
All right, so we got some stuff done off the list. Had to add the brake pedal booster, is what it is. So that's it. I get to go back in, and my wife's going to come home and wonder why I'm wearing junk clothes and smell like gas, but she probably won't even question it. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to look in to see if I have another one of these brake boosters around. I probably do. So I'll throw a used one in if I've got one first, but I'll test it first. I'll hook the vacuum line up to it, and we'll make sure it holds vacuum before I put it in and waste all that time. So I guess that's it for now. Thank you for watching. That speed sensor is actually a pretty neat little thing there. That's going to work good. That should help you if you're running a non-electronic speedometer. It's pretty cool. All right, we will see you on the next one, and we will be doing more testing and figuring things out. See ya.